very good evening to you and welcome. It's Thursday, 21st March 2024. Peace is the path to the prosperity of a nation. Let peace reign. On the news this evening, activist calls on Governor Fubara to redeem 100 million naira bounty pledged on late Tubaba. Chairperson Labour Party in Rivers State kicks as NLC barricade office. Experts speak as world. On the foreign scene, suicide bomber kills 21 people in Afghanistan. I am Constance Mega. It's been nearly a month since the police killed gang leader Gift Okpara, popularly known as Tubaba, responsible for the death of our other East DPO SP Bako Angbashim. But Governor Siminalayi Fubara is now being asked to redeem the bounty placed on him. In his call, human rights activist Hector Ekakita urged the Rivers State governor to redeem the pledge of 100 million naira bounty placed on the late gang leader. Mr. Ekakita, public relations officer of Ibuako Youth Congress, said the call became necessary following the governor's silence on the bounty.
We have observed that the Rivers State governor has not made any pronouncement on the 100 million naira bounty placed on David Gift. Over 3 weeks, his corpse was recovered and retrieved by the police in a forest in Ebras. While commending the governor for his support to the police and other security agencies in bringing down the court leader, David Gift, and his unwavering commitment to ensure lasting peace in Ahoda East AG, it is our view that His Excellency Siminalayi Fubara should redeem the pledge in record times.
Well, Mr. Ekakita also urged the police and other relevant security agencies not to relent in fishing out sponsors of courtesan and other violent crimes in Ahoda East local government area.
We urge the police and other relevant security agencies not to relent in going after sponsors of courtesans and other violent crime in Ahoda East. We also urge the Rivers State government to provide adequate succor to the immediate family of SP Bako Angbashim in recognition and appreciation of immense contribution of the killed DPO in crime reduction and eradication in the state.
Recall that Governor Siminalayi Fubara had placed a 100 million naira bounty on Gift Okpara and his gang members who were declared wanted for the killing of the DPO of Ahoda East, SP Bako Angbashim. While the Rivers State Commissioner for Information and Communications, Joe Johnson, is yet to respond as he did not answer his phone when our correspondent tried to reach him. Moving on, the convener of the Ogoni-based non-government organization known as Ogoni Development Drive, Solomon Lenu, says the plan to recall the lawmakers representing the 4 Ogoni-speaking local government areas in the State House of Assembly is still on course. Mr. Lenu tells our correspondent that the group suspended the recall process because of the numerous court cases involving the legitimacy of the lawmakers.
We are only waiting for when, the law take its course and then INEC conduct a supplementary election. Right now, that they are not there to serve the interests of Ogoni people, rather they are just there to serve one man. For us, the process has commenced. Very moment the court does not give a suitable by vacating them from that seat that they are grandstanding upon, immediately we will get back to the street and start collecting the signatures again to ensure that we send them back home where they will remain perpetually and permanent.
Well, Mr. Lenu tells correspondent Soibio Ruari that the group will not back down from recalling the lawmakers, accusing them of failing to show evidence that they are representing the Ogoni people. In other news, the Nigerian Labour Congress in Rivers State says it will continue barricading the office of the Labour Party in the state if it gets further directives from the national body. The head of Rivers State NLC Political Commission, Daniel Temple, spoke to correspondent Soibio Ruari.
The tenure of leadership has elapsed, but rather than coming in conjunction with the dictates of the Nigerian Labour Congress, he went ahead to fix a national convention in Abia State. The Labour Political Commission is inalienably a full member of the Labour Party, not the NLC. The NLC owns the party, but the NLC in its wisdom also brought their own committee to also oversee the affairs of the Labour Party. Any directive from the National Secretariat will either make us to stop or continue the picketing.
Earlier, the chairperson of the Labour Party in Rivers State, Hilda Dokubo, wondered how barricading offices would solve the problem.
Really, they have a problem. How does that solve their problem? Congress holding in our office is Labour Party the same as Nigerian Labour Congress? The answer is no. In all the time that Labour Party had her challenges, where was the Labour Congress? Almost every one of them, from the national to the state, are all on the payroll of state governors. How can they claim to be part of an opposition party? It's in their interest not to go anywhere near my office. Labour Party does not belong to Labour Congress. Both entities should operate within the modus operandi of their constitution.
Well, the Rivers State Labour Party chairperson also refuted the claim that the forthcoming convention of the party was being planned in secret. Elsewhere, the president of the Ijaw National Congress, INC, Benjamin Okaba, says the Congress is not comfortable with the approach of the military in solving the problem in Okwama Community, Delta State, where 16 soldiers were killed. Professor Okaba spoke to correspondent Obio Ruwari. While condemning the killing of the soldiers, Professor Okaba advised the military to adopt a more civil approach in handling the crisis.
Interpret the crisis as an inter-ethnic crisis between the Yorubas and the Ijaw. That the Okwama community don't send the criminals to kill the people. We are also pleading that the bombardment of Okwama should not continue because yes, the soldiers have died. It's very painful, it's very provocative, but it should not warrant massive destruction. More people should not be killed at all. So we are even saying that the military personnel should adopt some civil approach.
Meanwhile, the army says troops will remain in the creeks of Okwama in Ughelli South local government area until the recovery of all stolen weapons and arrest of all those involved in the killing of the soldiers. The general officer commanding 6th Division Nigerian Army Land Component Commander Major General Jamal Abdul Salam said this in Port Harcourt today, where he also assured that the troops will be firm, strong, decisive and professional in the course of the operations. A former director of the Department of State Services, DSS, Mike Ejiofor, says he's surprised that a lieutenant colonel, 2 majors, 1 captain and 13 other military personnel would be deployed to settle a land dispute. Well, the former DSS director said this while speaking on Channels Television, where he also called for an independent probe of the killing of the military personnel, saying he believes that an objective inquiry will indict some very important personalities. Still to come, expert speaks as world observes Down syndrome and Poetry Day. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now to the rest of the news. Today is World Poetry Day, and a poet, Ome Ngwoke, is advocating for increased reading and writing of poetry. Mr. Ngwoke tells our correspondent that consistent practice will help young poets rise to stardom. He also said poetry is therapeutic. Well, World Poetry Day is celebrated every year on the 21st of March. The theme for this year is Standing on the Shoulders of Giants. In a related development, as the world marks Down Syndrome Day, a special needs expert, Mercy Wogu, has dismissed some myths about people living with Down syndrome. In an interview with our correspondent, Mrs. Wogu said Down syndrome is not a sickness, but a genetic condition that can be managed.
Down syndrome is not a sickness that you are hoping to get a cure for someday, and individuals living with Down syndrome are not good for nothing. Just like people have a lot of fallacies about once you have Down syndrome, you are almost not a human. Yes, the features might be very visible, but people with Down syndrome can strive. They are gifted in the notion that we have about this set of human beings and give them the support and love that they need to strive to have their optimal living.
Well, the theme for this year's Down Syndrome Day is End the Stereotype. In the same vein, a young Nigerian woman in the diaspora, Obi Okafor, is advocating for strict policies to promote inclusivity and tackle racial bias and discrimination in workplaces and institutions. Well, Ms. Obi, who lives and works in London, UK, as a product manager, said this in an interview with our correspondent as world marks the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination today.
My race played a significant role in how others perceived me. From very curious stares when I walked into a room, because I usually work in teams where almost only the black person or only the female, and a few insensitive remarks, which I always try to educate the person making the remarks about emotional intelligence and how they could have handled it better. I've encountered moments where I felt like an outsider, judged solely based on my appearance. These encounters were very disheartening, but they also fueled my determinations to challenge the stereotypes and advocate for a better understanding.
Well, the theme for this year's International Day for Elimination of Racial Discrimination is A Decade of Recognition, Justice and Development, implementation of the International Decade for People of African Descent. And on the international scene, at least 21 people have been killed in a suicide bombing in the southern Afghan city of Kandahar. The Taliban government put the death toll at 3, while police said several others were wounded, but no group has claimed responsibility yet. Well, that's the news this evening, but before we go, let's take a look at the highlights. On the news this evening, you heard that rights activist Hector Ekakita has called on the Rivers State Governor, Siminalayi Fubara, to redeem the 100 million naira bounty pledged on late Tubaba. The Nigeria Labour Congress in Rivers State has barricaded the Labour Party Secretariat in Port Harcourt. And experts have spoken as the world observed Down Syndrome and Poetry Day today. On the foreign scene, a suicide bomber has killed 21 people in Afghanistan. The news was edited by Onyeka Chinwosu. To reach the news team, send an SMS or WhatsApp to 0808 721 7215. I am Constance Mega. Thank you for listening.